Do you like the Dreamcast? I love the Dreamcast, and that's why I'm on a mission to complete every game on the system. There are almost 300 English language releases, and I want you to join me on my adventure to completing them all. The order is chosen at random by a Google number generator. Last week we completed Puyo Puyo N. This week, game number 17, Jeremy McGrath Supercross 2000. Oh yes, the turn of the millennium extreme sports boom was beautiful. Too bad most of the games weren't. But you know who is beautiful? My Patreon supporters, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me and my wife, who edits the audio for the majority of these A Bit More Jordan videos. So you support us both essentially, alongside loads of great perks. They get to watch these videos a week earlier than anyone else. But more on that later. If you don't want to wait until later, check the link below. We've got to get our Supercross on. But first, I was in a bit of a dilemma with this game because I didn't really know how to say the title. I checked an online documentary and the people in the video did say McGrath because, you know, they're American. The British inside of me was desperate to say McGrath. But you know how Americans are with wanting to say words exactly how they're spelt. What's that all about? What's wrong with saying things in a weird way for no reason at all? Just so you feel a bit superior to everyone else. McGrath. So, Supercross, motocross, whatever you want to call it, dirt bike racing for dirt bags, that's what I like to say. I goddamn hate mud. Like, there's no need for mud in today's society. I've got like an entire 5-minute rant about mud, but I'll spare you for the sake of this video since we're here to talk about a bloke called Jeremy who's supposed to be pretty good at riding around in it. Jumping into single player, we have to pick a rider. Let's face it, there's only one man for the job. That is my man, Jeremy McGrath. This game has a few modes available, but we're going to be working on the series mode. Going into that, we can see there is a 125cc competition and a locked 250cc. So we'll start with 125 and see how the night's going. Again, we're greeted by a few locked modes. The only ones open are the outdoors and the custom. Now, custom is not necessary for completion. That's just to muck around in. Pardon the pun, I'll punish myself later. So we've got the outdoor league to go in first. Outdoors is what you'd expect. Out in the muddy field of a pissed off farmer, it's time to take on the competition. Each race has 5 laps, and the outdoor series has 8 tracks. The first lap of the first race is pretty tragic, as you'd expect. Jumping in at the deep end, not knowing the controls or, getting a hang of the physics, I fell off pretty much immediately because I accidentally tried initiating a trick over like one of the mini humps. I'll try not to do that again. The controls, they're pretty responsive. You have an accelerate button as well as 2 brakes. One you won't use, the other you will use. I didn't get to grips with it here yet, but if you hold down the brake on the shoulder button as you're going around one of the tight corners, you can grab a really big boost. It took a while for me to figure that out, so you probably won't see it too often. And that's mainly because I didn't really need to figure it out because I found it rather easy just doing my own thing. Despite going terribly around some tight corners, I was so far ahead, I even lapped some other riders to claim first. That was painfully easy. We get a shot of me on the podium celebrating to a crowd of literally no one. This is essentially the same story for all 8 races in this outdoor competition. I'm not even trying. I just accelerate and vaguely point in the direction of where I want the bike to turn. And so far, I'm so ahead, I could literally take a nap on the finishing line and get away with it, unlike that idiot rabbit. I'm not going to talk much about the rest of these races, but I'd like to point out race 3, which is chucking it down with rain. And I can't help but laugh. At the start of this race, all the riders are just like gurning at each other like sexual swans or something. Like, who am I looking at right here? What are you doing? What's with this pose? Anyways, I finished first very easily on all 8 races, and I get a special scene of me celebrating by myself. Winning now unlocks the indoor Supercross, which has a very different feel to it. 8 different tracks, but it's much flatter in terms of hills, that is. They have plenty of bumps. And they also have way more sharp turns, which is when I started taking advantage of the boosts. Not out of necessity for speed, just to be able to turn the corner properly. They were a nice side effect. Once again, I was comically first in almost all of the races, aside from the 3rd race where I got clobbered off my ride multiple times, which wasn't pleasant. That's at least one trip to the chiropractor. And I kept getting caught on these annoying things on the side. Why are they sticking out? Who's the health and safety officer here? Now, despite it being painfully easy, due to 5 laps for these 16 races that we've done so far, that's taken almost an hour and a half, which, I'm all for easy games, but it can be numbing on the mind. Doing this unlocks the Combined Series. This is essentially all indoor races and all outdoor races smashed together into one giant 16 race championship. Oh boy, talk about repetition. 16 painfully easy races that's going to take another hour and a half. But if you're observing carefully right now, you can see there is a slight issue. The issue being that I'm not in first place, nor am I getting anywhere close to being in first place. Like the guy up top is acting like me in the previous competitions. And this time, it's not because I'm crashing or catching the walls. I'm driving normally, but he's way ahead. And I didn't change a thing. I'm using the same driver, the same settings, but now I'm getting absolutely annihilated, at least on the indoor tracks. The second race is also indoors, and I get third. Like, what the hell? The outdoor tracks, I'm getting first. Not a problem. But, I don't know what's going on. And it took a while for it to sink in. I was halfway through the competition before I realized I was in trouble here. I kept thinking it was just like, a one-off error, some quirky AI on a track or two. It's happened before in other games. Plus, I don't need to win every race to claim the title. By the time it came to the point of no return, I decided to power on regardless, because even if I didn't get first, maybe the game would be generous if I got second or third. I took a chance on that rather than immediately restarting the whole competition, which takes a hell of a long time. The problem I worked out was this extra bumpy bits in the indoor tracks, because looking at my footage, while I wasn't riding perfectly, I wouldn't say I did a whole lot wrong. It just seemed like there was no way I could compete, but it was clear, night as day, that when I got to these bumpy road bits, they would be way faster on them than me, and they would overtake me. It was like someone hit the brakes on my bike. In the middle of the competition, I did do one thing to make things a little better in my favor. I changed the tire type between outdoor and indoor. Outdoor, I had the defaulted sand mud tire, while for indoors, I decided to switch to hardpack. It makes sense. Why didn't you do that anyways, Jordan, I hear you? Because the previous competitions were so goddamn easy, I didn't even need to think about changing anything. But yeah, with the competition finished and me not coming close to first, I had to take a step back. And by taking a step back, I mean I needed to read the manual. Aside from having some fabulous info about the riders, right at the back there were some hints and tips for idiots such as myself. It says something about whoops needed to be taken by leaning back on your bike. I don't know exactly what whoops are or why they are considered so big, but I sensed it was referencing my literal bumps in the road. So that's one point. Maybe I should hold back while going over those. But there's some other useful tips in here as well. Like you can get a boost at the start if your tachometer lines up with the green line. It also tells me that if I have loose steering, I should be better at the higher competitions. And finally, you can get a nice boost off jumps if you hold back just before going over them. So that's loads of points. Maybe I need to get used to it, but hopefully it would help me get over this unpredicted hurdle. Fingers crossed, because it takes an hour and 20 minutes to get through this. And as you can see, taking on board all the tips, with loose steering, holding back over the bumps, it is much better. I was just so unprepared for this. It's actually a test now, an actual game. Now, I didn't get first every single time. I came second one time, and on the final race, I didn't really care because I'd already won, I got third. But overall, I was the winner. I suppose I could have ended it there because what unlocks is essentially the same thing just at 250cc with harder opponents. Is there much need to repeat everything I did just faster? Well, just to curtail any comments, I will do 250cc as well. Yes, I will spend 3 hours of my life just so I don't get one comment complaining about it. 250cc is unlocked. The outdoor races first. I've always been good at these, mainly for the fact that it's easy to apply a bit of cheese in certain corners where you can easily drive almost straight, whereas the AI is directed to go through them properly by turning. In fact, I came in first in every single race without much issue. Admittedly, it could be close at times, but I still didn't break much of a sweat because, braking fluids is quite difficult without some chemistry equipment. The indoor challenge, I was a bit trepidatious, especially since I came second in my first race, not the best sign ever, but in fact I came in second 3 times in this 8 race series, but first in the other, so even though it wasn't perfect, I still managed to get over the line with 6 points more than a dude called Wyndham, or as I suspect Americans may say, Windham. Ham. God, I'm so hungry. And now the 16 race combined, the final challenge for my time with this game. And let me tell you, this was an ordeal. Again, the first race ended up in second, which I felt was hard fought. I was halfway down the pipe for most of the time, so getting up to second, I thought, I'd settle for that. Second is not the end of the world. Like I said, I don't need to win all of them, just half of them. And also, hope the other drivers balls up a bit. And this did give me a slight bit of hope, because there was a battle between a dude called Pastrana, who was my main competitor, but it wasn't guaranteed, because sometimes it'd be a dude called Tortelli, which gave me a bit of breathing space if they messed each other up. Second race, outdoors, which is usually solid ground for me. Can always rely on getting first here pretty much. But I didn't get first. I didn't even get second either. I came third. How the hell can I do better in the indoors race than the outdoors race? That does not make sense. The scientific community have diverted their attention away from the James Webb Telescope to this unprecedented situation, because maybe the answers to the universe lie in this predicament. Like, where the hell did this come from? I felt a bit underpowered, so essentially for the first time, I decided to fiddle with the engine power up the top there. I don't know what it does or how it affects things, but I fiddled with it, and for race 3, it was a disaster. It felt worse. So without wanting to ruin my season so early on, the thing you can do is you can quit the race if you're not happy. You don't lose anything, you just go out and then you can go back in and try again. So again, I fiddled with the settings. I was not a happy bunny at all. I restarted this race over and over again. I genuinely could not understand what the problem was. I'd blitzed these outdoor tracks before, even when under pressure, but here I was in either 4th or dead last, depending on which engine type I chose. I settled on finishing second. Again, I was praying this is just a one-off quirk where, it was really against me just for this one track. Maybe I could make up the difference elsewhere. And let me tell you, these outdoor races, almost everyone I got into a painful cycle of restarting, fiddling with the engine, and hoping for the best. But nothing seemed to work. Jeremy's nickname had become 4th place McGrath. Again, on a particularly tough track, a second seemed a relief almost. After about 6 races, I was well behind Pastrana, and that was, with essentially restarting almost every race multiple times just to get a placing that wasn't disastrous. I even settled for a 3rd place in one of them just because Pastrana did not come first. But with about 10 tracks to go, I really needed to push on. I had no room for error, and thankfully, there was some reprieve here and there. I dominated on a few tracks, but race number 9, oh my god, I spent 1 hour on this race just to get over the finishing line in second. I could not get any speed going because it's just so uphill, like huge hills, and yes, I was holding back, don't worry. But all Pastrami and Tortilla, they were zipping around like they were just like Skeletric cars or something. And I only accepted second because Pastrana actually finished below me, so I still closed the gap. And thankfully after that, it was almost plain sailing. The game was much kinder to me, and I mostly got firsts from there on, passing all Pastrana and taking the title. And there we have it. Game complete. So what do I think about Jeremy McGrath? Well, this might sound like Stockholm Syndrome, but from originally thinking the game was a bit rubbish, I eventually came to thinking this game's a bit rubbish, but I kind of mildly enjoyed playing it. I'd give it a 4 out of 10 in terms of fun. That's being generous though. 16 tracks, they all blend together, but mastering the turning and jumps fairly enjoyable. It's massively repetitive though, and leads me to the presentation. It's bad. Everything looks the damn same with no personality. The commentator is about 10 seconds behind the action. There's no variety, which sure, that's not easy to do in a game like this, but come on, add some personality somewhere, please. A 3 out of 10. In terms of difficulty, just weird, unbalanced game. Sometimes painfully easy, other times impossibly difficult. But fiddle with enough stats for each race, add a dose of cheese, and try not to be a perfectionist, and it's not that bad, I suppose. I give it a 7 out of 10. It just gets repetitive having to restart races over and over again. Completion time, 7.5 hours. That's actually longer than I thought, but that's what my recorded footage says. Alright, if you watched all the way through, please leave me a motorbike emoji in the comments alongside a normal comment. A thumbs up wouldn't go amiss either. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Aside from getting many perks, they also get to watch these videos early. In fact, they can watch the next episode right now. And next episode is Fighting Vipers 2, another fighting game. This one never released in North America. You can watch it too if you click the link below. And a shout out to my super producers, Alexander Cato, Brent McLean, FF14 Best RPG, Vey, Sven Nowlertz, Wixit, Josh Foote, and Dustin Martin.